Emeka Okoro sat on the veranda of his family home in Enugu, watching his daughter Eda play in the garden. Her laughter filled the air as she chased butterflies under the soft glow of the setting sun. Sophia, his wife, emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of fruits and drinks. "Emeka, come and eat something. You've been sitting there for too long," she called. "I'm fine, my dear," Emeka replied, but his voice lacked its usual warmth. Sophia noticed the distant look in his eyes. She placed the tray on the table and sat beside him, her gaze following his to Ada, who was now giggling at a butterfly perched on her small hand. "What's on your mind?" Sophia asked gently. Emeka sighed. "Sophia, you know I love our family. Ada is my joy. But I can't stop thinking about having a son. It's been 3 years since we had Ada, and the elders keep reminding me about the importance of a male child." Sophia's heart sank. She knew this conversation was inevitable, yet hearing it out loud still stung. After complications during Ada's birth, her doctor had delivered the devastating news: she could never conceive again. "Emeka," she began, choosing her words carefully, "I understand your feelings. But you know my situation. We have Ada, she's our blessing. Isn't that enough?" Emeka reached for her hand. "Sophia, it's not about Ada not being enough. She's perfect. But tradition is tradition. You know how it is in our culture. A male child carries the family name. The pressure from Mama is becoming too much." Sophia's eyes moistened, but she quickly wiped them. She knew Emeka wasn't trying to hurt her, he was simply torn between love for his family and loyalty to his culture. "Maybe," she said hesitantly, "we could consider surrogacy." Emeka turned to her, surprised. "Surrogacy? You mean someone else carrying our child?" "Yes," Sophia replied, her voice firm. "The baby will still be ours. We can find someone we trust. It might be the solution to this problem." Emeka hesitated, his traditional values clashing with the modern suggestion. But the idea planted a seed in his mind. Sophia knew just the person to ask. Elizabeth is, her childhood friend, had always been there for her. Elizabeth was single and worked as a teacher at a nearby school. She was known for her kind heart and strong sense of independence. Sophia invited Elizabeth over one evening. As they sat in the living room sipping tea, Sophia brought up the topic. "Elizabeth," Sophia began, "I have a favor to ask. It's something very personal and important." Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "You know I'd do anything for you." Sophia took a deep breath. "I need you to consider being a surrogate mother for us." Elizabeth nearly dropped her cup. "A surrogate mother? Me?" "Yes," Sophia said quickly, "I know it's a big ask. But you're someone I trust completely. Emeka and I need help to have another child, a boy, specifically. And I can't do it because of my health." Elizabeth was silent for a moment, processing the request. She looked at Sophia, seeing the vulnerability in her friend's eyes. "I don't know, Sophia," she said slowly. "This is huge. Carrying a child isn't something to take lightly." "I know," Sophia said, her voice breaking. "But you're the only one I can trust with this. Please, think about it." Elizabeth sighed. "I'll think about it. But this isn't something I can decide right now." After weeks of consideration and conversations with Sophia and Emeka, Elizabeth agreed to become their surrogate. The arrangement was based on mutual trust, no legal agreements, just a bond of friendship and understanding. The pregnancy went smoothly. Elizabeth grew close to Mama Nkechi, Emeka's mother, during this time. Mama Nkechi often visited with gifts and food, praising Elizabeth for her sacrifice. "You're a strong woman, Elizabeth," Mama Nkechi would say. "Carrying this child for my son's family is a blessing." Elizabeth couldn't help but feel a growing connection to the baby. She would often place her hand on her belly, wondering what the child's future would hold. When Elizabeth gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Chidi, the atmosphere was joyous. Emeka was over the moon, and Sophia wept tears of happiness. But the joy was short-lived. As the time came for Elizabeth to hand over Chidi to Sophia, she hesitated. I can't do it, Elizabeth said, cradling the baby. What do you mean you can't? Sophia asked, panic rising in her voice. I'm sorry, Sophia, Elizabeth said, her eyes brimming with tears. But I've carried him for 9 months. I felt him grow inside me. He's my baby. Sophia was speechless. Emeka stepped forward. Elizabeth, we had an agreement. Chidi is our son. I know what we agreed on, Elizabeth said, her voice trembling. But agreements can't change how I feel. I'm his mother. I can't just give him away. Mama Nkechi, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Elizabeth is right. She carried the boy, she's his mother. Maybe Chidi should stay with her. Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Mama Nkechi, how can you say that? Chidi is my son. We trusted Elizabeth. Mama Nkechi shrugged. Trust doesn't change biology, Sophia. This is a complicated situation. After much emotional turmoil, Elizabeth finally agreed to hand over baby Chidi to Sophia, but with a condition. She requested 6 months to nurse the baby before giving him up. This will give Chidi the care he needs as a newborn, Elizabeth explained to Emeka and Sophia during one of their heated discussions. After 6 months, I'll hand him over, I promise. Sophia, though reluctant, agreed. Fine, Elizabeth. But we'll visit often to see Chidi. He's still our son. Emeka nodded. Yes, we'll be around to ensure everything is fine. After 6 months, this arrangement must end. Mama Nkechi, who had been quietly observing the conversation, smiled faintly. 6 months is not a long time. Let's all be patient. Sophia didn't notice the glint of satisfaction in Mama Nkechi's eyes as she spoke. The first few months passed uneventfully. Sophia and Emeka visited Elizabeth regularly to see baby Chidi, who was growing stronger and more vibrant each day. During these visits, Elizabeth played the perfect host, offering meals and sharing stories about Chidi's milestones. Look, Emeka, Elizabeth said one day as she held Chidi up to him. He smiles just like you. Emeka grinned, holding the baby in his arms. He does, doesn't he? Sophia watched from the side, her heart aching with longing. She couldn't wait for the 6 months to end so she could finally have her son home. Unbeknownst to her, Mama Nkechi was visiting Elizabeth frequently, whispering seeds of manipulation into her ears. You're a beautiful woman, Elizabeth, Mama Nkechi said one afternoon. You've done so much for this family. It's clear that you and Emeka make a perfect match. Elizabeth blushed. Mama, what are you saying? Emeka is married to Sophia. Mama Nkechi waved her hand dismissively. Sophia is a good woman, but she cannot give Emeka what he truly needs, a strong lineage. You've already given him a son. Perhaps it's time you think about your future. Elizabeth, already grappling with her feelings for Emeka, began to entertain the idea. One evening, during a routine visit, Sophia excused herself to check on Ada, who was playing in the yard. This left Emeka and Elizabeth alone in the living room with baby Chidi. Thank you for taking such good care of him, Emeka said, watching Elizabeth cradle the baby. It's nothing, Elizabeth replied, her voice soft. He's my pride and joy. And so are you, Emeka. Emeka looked up, startled. What do you mean? Elizabeth moved closer, her eyes locking onto his. You've been so kind to me, so understanding. I've come to admire you deeply. Don't you feel the same? Emeka hesitated, caught off guard by her boldness. Elizabeth, you're my wife's friend. This isn't right. Elizabeth placed a hand on his arm. Sometimes the right thing isn't always what the heart wants. Before he could respond, Mama Nkechi entered the room with a knowing smile. Emeka, you're a man. You understand what's best for your family. Elizabeth has proven her worth. Under the weight of his mother's approval and Elizabeth's advances, Emeka's resolve began to falter. A few weeks later, during one of his visits, Emeka and Elizabeth crossed a line that couldn't be undone. Their affair was cloaked in secrecy, but its consequences were inevitable. Elizabeth soon discovered she was pregnant. Panic set in, but Mama Nkechi assured her that this was part of a greater plan. This child will solidify your place in Emeka's life, Mama Nkechi said confidently. Sophia doesn't need to know. For now, focus on keeping your pregnancy hidden. Elizabeth reluctantly agreed, but guilt began to weigh heavily on her. She had betrayed her closest friend, and she wasn't sure how long she could keep the secret. As the 6-month period neared its end, Sophia noticed a change in Emeka's behavior. He seemed distant and often made excuses to visit Elizabeth alone. Why do you need to see Elizabeth without me? Sophia asked one evening. I just want to check on the baby, Emeka replied, avoiding her gaze. Sophia's instincts told her something wasn't right, but she couldn't pinpoint what it was. Instead, she focused on preparing to bring Chidi home. One fateful day, Sophia overheard a hushed conversation between Mama Nkechi and Elizabeth during a visit. You must be careful, Mama Nkechi said. Sophia must not suspect that the child you're carrying is Emeka's. It's too soon. Sophia froze, her heart pounding. Her worst fears had come true. Unable to contain her anger, she stormed into the room. What did you just say? She demanded. Elizabeth and Mama Nkechi turned pale. Sophia, Mama Nkechi began, you don't understand. Don't lie to me. Sophia shouted, tears streaming down her face. Elizabeth, is it true? Are you pregnant with my husband's child? Elizabeth looked away, unable to meet Sophia's eyes. Sophia turned to Emeka, who had just entered the room. Did you know about this? Tell me the truth, Emeka. Emeka lowered his head in shame. I'm sorry, Sophia. It happened. I didn't mean for it to. Sophia let out a cry of anguish and ran out of the house, leaving Emeka, Elizabeth, and Mama Nkechi standing in stunned silence. Sophia sat in the guest bedroom of her parents' house in Enugu, her suitcase half-packed. The betrayer had shattered her world. The people she trusted most, her husband, her best friend, and even her mother-in-law, had conspired to rob her of her dignity and peace. Through her tears, she picked up her phone and dialed her elder brother, Chaik, who lived in London. Chaik, I'm coming back to London, she said, her voice trembling. Chaik didn't ask many questions, he could hear the pain in her voice. Come home, Sophia. We'll sort everything out when you're here. Sophia made up her mind. There was nothing left for her in Nigeria. She had sacrificed everything for her marriage, moving from London to Nigeria, convincing Emeka to trust her friend Elizabeth for surrogacy, and tolerating Mama Nkechi's coldness. But now, it was time to reclaim her life. The morning of her departure was bittersweet. Sophia held Ede close as she prepared to board her flight back to London. Emeka had come to the house earlier, begging her to reconsider. Sophia, please don't do this, he pleaded, standing in the doorway. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but I still love you. Sophia looked at him, her eyes cold. You didn't make a mistake, Emeka. You made a choice. You chose Elizabeth over me. You chose your mother's manipulations over our marriage. There's nothing left to fix. But what about Ada? What about Chidi? I will fight for Ada's future. And as for Chidi, he is your son, but he will not grow up in this toxic environment. Goodbye, Emeka. As the plane took off, Sophia felt a mix of relief and sorrow. London represented a fresh start, a chance to rebuild her life and create a safe and stable home for Ada. In London, Sophia moved into Chike's spacious home in the city. Chike, a successful lawyer, welcomed her and Ada with open arms. "You're stronger than you think, Sophia," Chike told her over dinner one night. "You've been through so much, but this is just the beginning of a better life." Sophia nodded, determined to make her brother proud. With his help, she filed for divorce from Emeka, citing irreconcilable differences and infidelity. The divorce proceedings were handled quickly, as both parties were living in separate countries. Sophia also enrolled in a business management program at a local university, deciding to focus on her education and career. She wanted Ada to see her as a strong, independent woman. Back in Nigeria, Emeka's life was falling apart. Elizabeth, now visibly pregnant, had moved into his home with Mom Nkechi's blessing. "You've done the right thing, my son," Mom Nkechi assured him. Sophia was never strong enough to handle this family's needs. "Elizabeth will give you the son and the future you deserve." But Emeka wasn't convinced. He missed Sophia deeply and realized too late that his actions had cost him the love of his life. His nights were sleepless, haunted by the pain he had caused her. Elizabeth, on the other hand, struggled with guilt. She could see the unhappiness in Emeka's eyes and felt the weight of her betrayal every day. 2 years passed, and Sophia had transformed her life. She had graduated from her program with honors and secured a position at a prestigious company in London. Ada had grown into a confident, happy child, thriving in her new environment. One evening, as she tucked Ada into bed, Sophia felt a deep sense of gratitude. "We are going to be okay, Ada," she whispered. "Mama will always protect you." To her surprise, she received an email from Emeka that night. "Dear Sophia, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted to apologize again for everything I did. I was weak and allowed myself to be manipulated by my mother. I regret hurting you more than I can express. I hope you and Ada are happy. Please let me know if I can ever make amends. Yours, Emeka." Sophia stared at the email, her emotions swelling. She didn't respond. Some doors were better left closed. One day, while attending a networking event in London, Sophia met Namdi, a charming Nigerian entrepreneur who had recently moved to the city. "You look familiar," Namdi said with a smile as they shook hands. Sophia laughed. "I've been in London for a while now. Maybe we've crossed paths before." They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives and experiences. For the first time since her divorce, Sophia felt a spark of hope for the future. 2 years after Sophia had rebuilt her life in London, she received an unexpected letter from Mom Nkechi. It arrived on a crisp autumn morning, addressed simply to Sophia Okoro. With hesitation, Sophia opened the envelope and began to read. "Dear Sophia, I know I am the last person you want to hear from, but I write to you with a heavy heart. I have wronged you in ways I can never fully apologize for, and I carry that guilt with me every day. Elizabeth has left Emeka. Their relationship could not withstand the weight of betrayal, and the house that I thought I was helping to build has crumbled. Emeka is a broken man, longing for the family he lost. Sophia, I was blinded by my desire for a male heir and my outdated beliefs. I pushed my son into choices that cost him his happiness. I pray that someday, you can find it in your heart to forgive us. Please return home to let Ada know her father's love. Emeka needs his daughter, and I believe Ada needs her father too. With regret. Mom Nkechi." Sophia sat with the letter in her hands for a long time. She thought about Emeka's mistakes, Mama Nkechi's manipulation, and her own pain. But she also thought about Ada. Ada deserves to know her roots, she said aloud. Sophia and Ada arrived in Nigeria a week later. They were greeted warmly by Chike, who had flown in to support his sister. "I'm proud of you for doing this," Chike said as they drove to Emeka's home. Sophia nodded. "This isn't about him or Mama Nkechi. It's about Ada knowing her father and me letting go of the past." When they arrived, Emeka was waiting at the gate. He looked thinner and older, but his face lit up when he saw Ada. "Ada," he exclaimed, kneeling down to hug her. Ada hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward into his arms. "Daddy," she said softly, the word unfamiliar but warm. Sophia watched from a distance, her heart heavy but resolute. Later that evening, after Ada had gone to bed, Sophia and Emeka sat down for a private conversation. "Thank you for coming," Emeka began, his voice filled with emotion. "I never thought I'd see you again." "I didn't come back for you," Sophia said firmly. "I came back for Ada. She deserves to know her father, even if he betrayed her mother." Emeka lowered his head. "I don't have the words to express how sorry I am, Sophia. I was weak. I let my mother and Elizabeth manipulate me, and I hurt the one person who truly loved me." Sophia's voice softened. "You didn't just hurt me, Emeka. You destroyed the trust we had. But I've learned something in the past 2 years, holding on to pain only hurts me. I'm here to forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine." Tears filled Emeka's eyes. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I promise to be a better father to Ada." "That's all I want," Sophia replied. The following months were a time of healing for everyone. Emeka devoted himself to being a present father to Ada, while Sophia remained in Nigeria temporarily to help Ada transition. Mama Nkechi approached Sophia one afternoon, her usually stern face softened with age and regret. "Sophia, I don't deserve your kindness," she said. "But I want to thank you for allowing Emeka to be a father again. I only wish I had valued you more when I had the chance." Sophia nodded. "I've forgiven you, Mama. Let's focus on being better for Ada's sake." One day, while visiting a park with Ada, Sophia bumped into Namdi, the Nigerian entrepreneur she had met in London. "Namdi," she said, surprised. "Sophia," he replied, grinning. "What are you doing in Nigeria?" "It's a long story," Sophia said with a laugh. Over time, their connection rekindled. Namdi's kindness and understanding helped Sophia see that love could be healthy and pure. At Ada's 6th birthday party, the family came together in a way Sophia had never imagined. Emeka, Mama Nkechi, Sophia, and even Elizabeth, who had returned to her teaching job, attended. During the toast, Emeka stood and raised his glass. "To forgiveness," he said. "And to Sophia, the strongest woman I know. Thank you for teaching me the value of family and forgiveness." Sophia smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Ada ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "I love you, Mama," she said. "And I love you too, my Ada," Sophia replied, kissing her forehead. In that moment, Sophia knew she had made the right choice. Forgiveness had set her free, and her family, though imperfect, was healing together. Please share, subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories. Thank you.